Item, SCP-121. Object Class, Euclid. Name, Concrete Cradle. Description, SCP-121 is the region of land occupied by the former town of Unknown, Colorado. The town was home to roughly 6,800 prior to enactment of current containment protocol, and holds roughly 3,000 buildings, both residential and commercial. Clouds above SCP-121 appear incapable of entering an area roughly 12 km in diameter, instead passing around the area. It is speculated this is related to SCP-121's range of effect, but it is not known how at this time. Buildings in SCP-121 will sporadically detach from any foundations and ascend into the air. At this point, these buildings are identified as SCP-121-1. Instances of SCP-121-1 ascend to a random height of a minimum of 45 meters. Regardless of the previous state of the building, doors and windows become locked and any potential entryways become barricaded by furniture inside. Forced entry has shown an increased ambient temperature of roughly 35 degrees Celsius and a relative humidity of roughly 65%, but a lack of any further anomalous properties. Instances of SCP-121-1 will cease suspension after a minimum period of 10 weeks, but may remain airborne for no more than 15 weeks afterwards. Instances do not show any abnormal levels of durability, and near total destruction of SCP-121-1 upon impact with the ground is common. After impact, the remains of instances of SCP-121-1 will contain an ovoid object approximately 1.2 m x 1.2 m x 2 m composed of materials consistent with furniture found inside the home. The object will begin to locomote on its own accord. At this point, it will be referred to as SCP-121-2. SCP-121-2 begin to form a conglomerate with nearby materials, including debris from SCP-121-1, flora, automobiles, and, on rare occasion, other buildings. SCP-121-2 will continue to attract objects until it forms a body of material 9 meters in height, at which point the body will animate and appear to take on levels of sentience. SCP-121-2 may, at this point, begin to simulate ingesting other material, to continue growing at a considerably slower rate. Ingestion appears to be for the sole purpose of continued growth, as instances have gone prolonged periods of time without material. Certain items have been known to attach to SCP-121-2 instantaneously, despite size and the lack of simulated ingestion. Instances of SCP-121-2 normally resemble animals capable of locomotion on land, but have been known to take on humanoid forms and forms that do not resemble any known animal. They are primarily docile, and normally do not display hostility towards personnel unless provoked. However, SCP-121-2 instances have been known to form with innate aggressive and territorial behavior. This behavior has also been observed to develop following the accumulation of certain items, including firearms, bladed weapons, and in one example, the taxidermy head of a bear. SCP-121 came to the attention of the Foundation when local authorities were flooded with reports of a previously abandoned residence suddenly flying in the sky. The town was evacuated under the guise of a hazardous material spill and the residence was observed. Once the instance of SCP-121-1 transitioned into SCP-121-2, SCP-121-2 was quickly neutralized. Following the neutralization, another instance of SCP-121-1 developed, and the town was permanently evacuated and contained. Special Containment Procedures. Containment Site 83 has been established outside SCP-121 to house personnel dedicated to the containment of SCP-121. The perimeter of SCP-121 is to remain fenced off from the surrounding area, with guards stationed along the perimeter at all times. Guards are to don local military uniforms and remain heavily armed at all times. Rotation of guards is to occur every 4 hours. The surrounding population is to remain informed that SCP-121 is quarantined due to persisting hazardous material. Warning signs are to be placed 75, 50, and 25 km out along roads leading to SCP-121 to deter trespassers. Civilians who approach the perimeter of SCP-121 are to be reminded of the quarantine and forced to depart. Those who resist are to be detained for questioning. In the event that approaching civilians witness an active instance of SCP-121-1 or -2, Class A amnestics are to be administered. Any meteorological data regarding SCP-121's anomalous effect is to be censored, and SCP-121 has been labeled a no-flight zone to prevent knowledge of SCP-121-1 and -2. Site Task Force Iota-71, Home Wreckers, has been established and permanently assigned to Containment Site 83 in response to the threat of SCP-121-2. They are to escort researchers interested in studying non-hostile instances of SCP-121-2 as well as neutralize any instances that have grown to potentially lethal sizes. In the event of an attempted containment breach, Iota-71 is to assist perimeter guards in the neutralization of the instance of SCP-121-2. Any buildings within SCP-121 that develop into SCP-121-1 are to be recorded and monitored at all times for transition into SCP-121-2. Instances of SCP-121-2 that become innately hostile upon transition are to be neutralized. However, passive instances may continue to dwell within the perimeter of SCP-121 for research purposes until they've grown to a size too dangerous to contain or become hostile, at which point they are to be neutralized. Item: SCP-122. Object Class: Keter. Name: No More Monsters. Description: SCP-122 is a children's nightlight in the design of a stylized shooting star. When it is in a powered state, SCP-122 lets off between 14 to 20 LX. No manufacturer's mark is present on or within SCP-122's components. When in an unpowered state, SCP-122 will affect all subjects within a 500 m radius of its location. When the subjects enter REM sleep, they will move into a comatose state in which they will remain until SCP-122 is resupplied with power. While comatose, humanoid figures appearing to be composed of a black, slightly translucent mass will appear from any shadows around the subject. These figures are hereafter known as instances of SCP-122-1. Instances of SCP-122-1 exhibit signs of sapience and sentience, with physical abilities roughly equivalent to the affected subjects. They will attempt to locate as many human subjects as possible, and expose them to SCP-122's effect. As more subjects are affected by SCP-122, its radius of effect will expand, with the maximum range seen in testing being over 2.7 km. The SCP-122-1 instances will attempt to gather all sleep aids within the area of effect and apply them to the subjects. These objects have included insomnia medication, traditional medicines known to be used as treatment with insomniacs, pillows, blankets, mattresses and bed frames. Media such as lullabies. When in a powered state, SCP-122 will affect the sleep patterns of all subjects within its radius. If a subject awakens from a state of REM sleep while within SCP-122's radius, they will display signs of insomnia, and will complain of unusual dreams. Special Containment Procedures: SCP-122 is to be stored in a standard containment chamber, containing a single electrical outlet. No personnel dormitories are to be constructed within 500 m of the containment area. At no time should SCP-122 enter an unpowered state. Several redundant power systems are to be maintained and inspected regularly. In the event of SCP-122-1 manifestation, 35 members of site personnel assigned to enact containment are to be deployed outside the containment chamber. If it becomes hostile, Procedure 99 Renmar is to be enacted. Due to the potentially disastrous side effects in the event of cross-contamination, at no point are SCP-122 and instances of SCP-3060 to be stored at the same facility. To enact Procedure 99 Renmar, all subjects are to assume specific positions in and around the containment chamber, in order to prevent a containment breach. 2 subjects are to man a portable generator with which the equipment used in Procedure 99 Renmar is powered. 3 subjects are to be equipped with chemical irritants created as a byproduct of SCP-1837, which has been found to have an inhibitory effect on SCP-122-1 instances. After all instances of SCP-122-1 have been reduced to the point where entry is safe, 5 subjects are to enter the containment chamber, and use an electrical extension cord from the generator to return SCP-122 to a powered state. These personnel are to be considered irrecoverable after entering SCP-122's containment chamber, due to its effect. The remaining personnel are redundant, they will take the place of any incapacitated personnel. Item Number, SCP-123. Object Class, Euclid. Name, Contained Miniature Black Hole. Description, Object is a gray geodesic sphere 65 cm in diameter consisting of 60 triangles. The areas between these triangles are empty, allowing the center of the sphere to be seen. The material the sphere is composed of is unknown, and upon the recommendation of Drive Unknown, research into the material composition shall be limited to visual observation until further notice. SCP-123 appears to weigh about 3.62 kilograms, though its actual mass is believed to be much higher. The geodesic sphere is hollow, save for the very center. At the center of SCP-123 is what appears to be a black sphere, approximately 1 mm in diameter. No light can be seen being reflected off or emitted from the black sphere. The core also appears to exhibit significant gravitational force, which massively increases within the confines of the outer geodesic sphere. This gravitational force can be measured using sensitive instruments several dozen meters away. Within approximately 3 meters, the gravitational pull is apparent to any observer, with dangling objects beginning to be pulled towards the sphere. At the surface of the outer sphere, the gravitational pull doubles the weight of any object placed onto the structure. The inner sphere's qualities are apparent when any small object is inserted within the outer sphere. Any such object quickly accelerates into the object and disappears. Any liquid poured into the object also is sucked into the central sphere. Analysis has shown that light that nears the black sphere is curved towards the center. The amount of gravity exhibited by the inner sphere at its surface suggests that its mass is approximately 1029 kilograms, though the obvious gravity-reducing effect within the outer sphere means that its actual mass may actually far exceed even that. Note that such a mass would ordinarily imply a Schwarzschild radius in the order of 200 meters, way in excess of the approximate 0.5 mm actually observed, which can be considered further testament to the outer sphere's gravity-dampening qualities. Gases are affected by the gravity of SCP-123, and the atmosphere pressure at its surface has been measured at 205 kPa. However, gases are unable to penetrate the area between the triangles of the outer geodesic sphere. The reason for this is currently unknown, and is currently being studied. It should be noted that the outer sphere and inner sphere appear to act as one whenever the outer sphere is moved, the inner sphere follows. Further research is suggested into the nature of this relationship. Special Containment Procedures, SCP-123 is to be held in a secured facility and is to be securely fastened to the top of a sturdy table by use of straps, chains, a net, or similar device. Absolutely no hooks shall be fastened to the device. The object and table should be centrally located in a room no smaller than 5 m x 5 m x 5 m. No sensitive measuring devices should be used within 100 meters of SCP-123, as their measurements will be noticeably affected. More significantly, absolutely no objects should be inserted into SCP-123 except under experimental conditions. Transfer of SCP-123 shall be made with care, an effort made to prevent the object from being shaken or jerked with notable force. SCP-123 shall not, under any circumstances, be transported over large bodies of water by any method. No personnel below Level 2 must be allowed in the containment chamber with SCP-123. Any person interacting with the object should wear tight-fitting clothing that has absolutely no straps, laces, or other dangling components. Persons with long hair shall be required to tie their hair back or wear a hairnet. Item Number, SCP-124. Object Class, Euclid. Name, Fertile Soil. Description, SCP-124 is a plot of soil approximately 9 square meters in area and 14 cubic meters in size. It was recovered from a Detroit basement when authorities were notified of 2 teenagers growing large amounts of marijuana. SCP-124 has the ability to grow any biological organism to its full potential in a relatively short amount of time. The length varies according to the complexity of the organism. Nothing growing in SCP-124 requires external nutrients or other resources. For example, a tomato plant would not require water or light. Pesticides, too, aren't needed, as SCP-124 has a repellent effect on any insect or other invertebrates not growing in it. Any food grown in SCP-124 is reported to be of very high quality, taste, and nutrition, no matter what state the food was in before being planted in SCP-124. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-124 is to be kept in a 4.2 meter x 2.1 meter stone pit in its containment cell. The pit is to be 1.5 meters deep. A plastic tarp is to be placed over SCP-124 when not in use. Absolutely no biological matter is allowed within 1 meter of SCP-124 when not being studied. An armed guard is to be stationed outside SCP-124's cell at all times. Document 124-1, List of items grown in SCP-124. The following is a selective list of objects grown in SCP-124 during experiments. Input, product of SCP-124. Tomato seed, fully grown tomato plant. All tomatoes, 12 on each plant, were ripe and juicy. Reported to be very tasty. Small watermelon, 0.8 kilograms, 11.1 kilograms, 24.5 pounds, watermelon. Reported to be very sweet and tasty. Grass seed, 1, SCP-124 quickly sprouted into a lush, green lawn within a matter of seconds. Slight dew on the grass. Small, overgrown hedge, a hedge, trimmed and shaped like a dolphin. Small, overgrown hedge, a hedge, trimmed and shaped like a skull. Small Labrador Retriever puppy, sandy brown, a fully grown, bronze-colored Labrador Retriever in peak condition. Currently living with Dr. Church. Small Caucasian fetus, male, data expunged after killing 6 personnel, the subject was terminated by SCP containment team. Fly larvae, data expunged level 5 lockdown was initiated. Item number, SCP-125. Object Class, Euclid. Name, Contagious Reflection. Description, SCP-125 is an apparently sentient being that can only exist within reflections. At rest and viewed up front, it takes the form of a black circle 17.2 mm in diameter resting on the reflective surface. Its first anomalous characteristic is that it appears as a perfect circle to any observer regardless of the surface's angles, bends, and the location of the viewer or viewers. In that regard, it acts more as if it were a sphere in contact with the surface, but lacking any shadow or highlight, and this even where an obstacle, such as containment mesh, makes it clear SCP-125 does not extend beyond the surface it has imprinted to. SCP-125 does not reflect visible light or infrared. When observed in ultraviolet, however, data expunged up to and including data expunged. For unclear reasons, it also emits a minute but measurable and constant amount of X-rays. SCP-125 is capable of movement across the surface it currently exists on. This movement may only occur across a surface uninterrupted by either an angle, the surface must follow a reasonably continuous curve, or a non-reflective area. SCP-125 has demonstrated incapability to cross scratches and frosted or etched areas of a surface. In many instances, however, SCP-125 will circumvent these limits by jumping to a reflection to round a corner, or between the separate outer glass and silver surfaces of a metal glass mirror, hence the preference for opaque metallic surfaces for containment purposes. Although capable of moving anywhere along the surface, SCP-125 generally remains immobile in a location near its edges if any, and if on a surface that has a specific, immobile orientation, will usually remain in the lower right corner or its equivalent, even if the item is later moved. Any reflective surface capable of displaying a reasonably accurate reflection of SCP-125 can host it. So far this has included a wide ranges of mirror-quality surfaces, glasses, polished or varnished surfaces, such as stone and wood, glossy plastic, and even undisturbed pools of liquid or polished nails. When reflected by another surface, SCP-125 is capable of instantly transferring to it. However, SCP-125 cannot survive on, or transfer to or away from, a surface smaller than its own area, approximate 2.32 square centimeters. Should it be constrained to one, it will rapidly become translucent and disappear completely. The entity has demonstrated a certain level of sentience and even sapience. Despite lacking physical existence, it appears unwilling to be touched directly or otherwise hidden from sight. It will also resist to the best of its abilities any attempt at reducing its freedom of movement either by jumping to another surface or moving across its current one very fast. It will also flee from perceived threats, even complex ones expressed by speech, demonstrating an understanding of human communication. How it is capable of this and whether it can or wishes to communicate back is currently unknown. In its normal state, SCP-125 is completely harmless and incapable of multiplying. It is, however, perfectly capable of moving to a living reflective surface, specifically that of a living animal's cornea. It will, in fact, do everything in its power to do so, indicative of a natural desire. Once it has achieved this, SCP-125 diminishes in size by a factor of 10 to 1.72 mm in diameter. While existing on the surface of a living tissue, SCP-125 becomes capable of multiplying and infecting a potentially unlimited number of surfaces, as opposed to merely moving between them. This multiplication occurs within the cornea, rapidly causing the victim to complain of seeing dots. Past this stage, the SCP-125 infestation will rapidly, within 5 to 9 days of initial infection, crowd out the entire tissue, causing the eye to go blind, after which stage the cells of the eye and optic nerve appear to undergo mass apoptosis, causing a non-infectious abscess. Why this occurs has yet to be elucidated. Only after the apoptotic stage has run its course does SCP-125 cease being contagious. No treatment for SCP-125 infestation is known to be efficient beyond keeping the affected eye or eyes tightly covered to prevent further spread and administration of heavy antibiotics to reduce risk of infection. Outbreaks continue to occur on an irregular basis, suggesting that SCP-125 is either a naturally occurring phenomenon or that it was spread over much of the planet at some point prior to the beginning of written history. Special Containment Procedures supports for instances of SCP-125 are kept in padded boxes and covered with a fine nylon mesh that allows vision through, but obscures the surface of the mirror by at least 25%. These supports consist of a polished metallic surface, currently silver-plated brass, with no sharp or irregular edges, which must imperatively be smoothed out to prevent rips in the protective mesh. To further prevent incidents, any person penetrating the room where SCP-125 is located must also wear such a protective mesh over their face. Metal-plated glass mirrors should be avoided for the purpose of containment as SCP-125 is capable of moving from the glass itself to the metal surface. Any metallic surface in the room must be dulled to prevent reflections. As an additional security measure, the room is kept in darkness and monitored only via infrared and ultraviolet lighting when no experiment is taking place. No mirror or comparably reflective surface, including, but not limited to, metal case pens, sunglasses, laptop computers, and glass objects, may be allowed in the room outside controlled experiments. The SCP may not be photographed or filmed in its unrestrained state. If any personnel on site, and particularly personnel having recently been involved with SCP-125, reports seeing black dots, MTF Eta 10 and Chi 7 will be immediately put on standby and a Level 2 alert for potential containment breach will be declared. Individuals contaminated will undergo Containment Protocol 125B and may not return to active duty until the instance of SCP-125 affecting their cornea has been rendered